You hear this a lot that the CIA removed the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mosaddegh, and installed a Shah. Even American politicians repeat it. But is that really true, or is there more to the story? Let me break down why that narrative is heavily twisted to absolve Iranians of any agency and why it paints the CIA as some all-powerful super entity, even though it was only 6 years old at the time, despite playing a decisive role. So was Mosaddegh a democratically elected Prime Minister? Yes, he was. And so were the prime ministers who came before him and technically the ones after him. Under the 1906 Persian constitution, their parliament would vote on a candidate for prime minister. Then the Shah held the power to officially appoint and dismiss that prime minister. So it wasn't as if Iran had replaced the Shah completely with a prime minister only for the CIA to magically bring back the Shah. That's not how their constitutional system worked. The parliament elected Mosaddegh and the Shah appointed him in 1951. In 1952, Mosaddegh resigned in protest because he wanted to become Minister of War while still being Prime Minister, which would reduce the Shah's authority, and the Shah refused. After public pressure, the Shah reinstated him and handed that power to Mosaddegh. That moment was the point of no return. By taking control of the army, Mosaddegh stripped the Shah of his last real power base and convinced the Shah that he was now a threat. Fast forward to 1953, the same Mosaddegh, who was elected by parliament, dissolved the same parliament that elected him. And when the Shah issued a royal decree dismissing him on August 15, Mosaddegh refused to step down and even arrested the officer who delivered the order. By August 19, the military and pro-Shah mobs, backed by CIA funding, stormed his residence. He fled, surrendered the next day, and General Zaidi took over as prime minister.
The Shah and his queen arrive in Rome after an alleged attempt by the Imperial Guard to arrest Dr. Mosaddegh and a refusal by the Shah to dissolve Parliament at Mossadegh's request. In Tehran, it looked as if Mosaddegh would soon be named president, and on his orders, troops occupied the Shah's palaces and surrounded Parliament. And then the people themselves took a hand. 300 wounded is a conservative estimate. The rioters freed those taken prisoner earlier and stormed the house of Mosaddegh. Meanwhile, the mob flocked the streets, demanding the return of the Shah. Mosaddegh and his government were swept from power in favor of General Zahidi, the man appointed by the Shah in the first place.
So in reality, it was a coup and a counter-coup. Constitutionally, the Shah had the right to dismiss him. Mosaddegh refusing to step down after dissolving parliament was effectively a coup against the Shah, and the Shah actually fled. The CIA then circulated the Shah's decree, which helped convince the military to switch sides and move against Mosaddegh to restore the Shah. Regardless of whether you support the Shah or Mosaddegh, the popular claim that the CIA removed a democratically elected prime minister and installed a Shah is categorically false. Iran always had a Shah and always had a prime minister since 1906, before, during, and after foreign interference. The Shah appointed and dismissed dozens of prime ministers before Mosaddegh, about 40 individuals between 1906 and 1951, and continued to do so afterwards. This video isn't about defending foreign interference, it's about acknowledging geopolitical reality and insisting that the Iranian people always had agency in their own history. The only real exception perhaps was in 1941, when Britain and the Soviet Union invaded Iran, deposed the Shah, and installed his son to secure Iran's oil, and used the Persian corridor to supply the Soviets during the war against Germany in World War II. But when it comes to the 1953 coup and counter-coup and the 1979 Islamic Revolution that brought the mullahs and Ayatollah Khomeini to power, Iranians were not passive puppets. They were active participants driven by their own internal politics and motivations. As I always say, if your brother never wanted to hurt you, your enemy wouldn't find a loophole in his heart to convince him to. Hold your brother responsible. There will always be foreign interference, but a united family stays a united family. Think sharper.
In an age when so many monarchies perished and Mohammad Reza Shah had ascended to the throne, Iran still adheres to her constitutionalist traditions. With the oldest constitution in all Asia, she still remains a monarchy. Symbol of the new role of women in Muslim Iran is the active participation of Farah, the Shah Banu, in representing the dynasty, the state. She is in charge of whole sectors of national life, particularly in the fields of social activities, art, and culture. The number of children in primary schools has risen from 1.7 million to 4.1 million, in high schools from 326,000 to almost 2 million. Of 152,000 students in higher education, about one-third are women. In 1975 at Tehran University, 44% of all graduates in medicine were women. 47% in pharmacology as well as in social sciences, and 55% in education.